Welcome to Section 31, episode number 328. I'm Dan Hammond.
And I'm Rogue Schindler.
This week we have, we don't have much Star Trek to talk about. The next set's going to be, the next one set is on the horizon. I know it's been sent over to Art, I believe, so we should have spoilers in the spoiler season soon. But we don't have anything to talk about specifically there. So I think instead we're going to change gears and do our long-awaited discussion about Rogue One.
The next best star or something.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's no
to talk about.
There's no Battlestar to talk about. There's no Star Blazers to talk about. So until one of those comes back, we'll talk about Star Wars. I saw the movie the day after you did, I guess. I went to a Friday morning showing, and I had planned to see it last week to refresh my memory. And I did not. So did you see it after the first time?
I did. I saw it twice right away. And then, unfortunately, we usually go to a movie with my mom over the holidays or either of our families, whichever family we happen to be with. But with the baby this year, I got sick right before Christmas, and then the baby took up a lot of holiday time, and so we didn't really go see anything. And we did go see it once more, I think shortly after New Year's, maybe New Year's Day, the day after. But saw it a few times. Had a little time. It's a hard movie to rewatch. Just because okay, we should just say right now, right? It's been a month. It's been over a month since the movie came out. We're going weapons free, right? Spoilers are fair game. So I'm going to prepare you right now. Spoilers episode. So stop watching, stop listening.
There will be nothing else that we talk about in the episode. So if you, for some reason, don't want to hear us talk about Star Wars, we won't circle around and say, by the way, here's a 2-week spoiler for you at the very end. So don't worry about that. We will be back next week. I will be in a place where I probably will not be able to record, and so we will return in 2 weeks to talk about the more Star Trek stuff. So if you are, you're out, that's fine. We'll talk to you next time. However, for those of you who are staying, yes, we will talk about all the spoilery parts of Rogue One. So let's get out of the way at the beginning. Everyone dies, and the good guys kind of win. All right, there you go.
Yes, in a nutshell, which is difficult. And when Alan Tudyk dies, and he doesn't take a spear through the chest, which is nice, but he's the first, and he falls, and you kind of get this feeling of, oh, here we go.
Yeah, that was about the point, I think, that the movie started picking up again for me, right? Because we have this very long first third where we're learning everyone's name, and we're kind of getting used to people, and we're learning her backstory. And then we have a long middle section where we're waiting for things to happen. And then the last third, it's all the things happening, right? It's all the setup is paying off. We get troops landing. We get, walkers wandering around the beach, people climbing things, and archaic tape decks, and transmissions being sent, and things like that. So, that I think that's about when, the movie turned back to the interesting side. You saw it 3 times, obviously, which is 2 more times than I saw it. What was your overall, your overall take?
I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. The first time was weird because there were a lot of things I kept waiting for, and we didn't get because for some reason they still let marketing people pull from cut footage for things like trailers and commercials.
I don't think that's marketing people pulling from cut footage. I think that's recutting the movie after the marketing has taken what they want.
Well, no, they did a lot of discussion about it, and they even said particularly the last shot from the first trailer where she's going down the Imperial Tunnel and she kind of looks back over her shoulder. That was literally just that happened by accident. And the director's like, oh my God, that looks so cool. Stop. Everybody stop what you're doing. turn around, we're going to shoot this. And they
Yeah.
did it like 12 times, and then it never got used, but marketing went, ooh, that looked really cool. Let's put that in the trailer. So apparently that is and that is a new sort of hip way of making movies, is they shoot the shit out of the movie. Like, let's do this because it'll look cool, and let's do that because we kind of like that idea, and let's put, shoot them going over here in case we decide to do that. And then they kind of, like, the final draft of, I mean, it's not an old concept of telling the movie in the editing room, but seriously, like, doing your final draft of writing in the editing room, and then leaving 75% of what you shot on the floor is kind of crazy. And it sounds like it was really intense. So, like you said, it's not an old trick for marketing to go in and pull stuff that's been cut from the movie, but there was so much to choose from this time that, there were lines we kept waiting for that were really dramatic that would have dropped. I was really hoping for this is a rebellion, isn't it? I rebel. The TIE fighter popping up while she's on the gantry, never happened. There's them running on the beach with the plans in hand past the AT-ATs, the stormtroopers wading through the thing. So that was a little distracting.
It's funny that, on the one side, usually you see a trailer, you see, the best, Darth Maul standing there and the other end of his lightsaber extends, right? Something from the trailer that would have been amazing to see in the movie for the first time. Whereas this is completely the opposite. You're seeing things in the trailer that you're waiting for in the movie, and they never happen. That's just weird.
Yeah, and I didn't, I get the wanting to pull things that are dramatically appropriate for a trailer, but may not land in the movie, here and there. It's certainly, we've seen it before for other things. It's just this was so over the top, and I really got irritated, tangentially, seeing ads after the movie came out. It's like, okay, with parts that aren't in the movie, that irritated me. It's like, okay, you know what? It was one thing when we were trying to get us hyped and get us to go, but the movie's already out. I feel like that's somewhat disingenuous. I don't know why it's more disingenuous after the movie came out than before, but it bugged me more that way. But that's really neither here nor there. I think my first viewing, I was very distracted. I was really nervous because I really wanted it to be good, being my namesake and all. And so I was kind of like, had this whole tense, don't suck the whole time. There was the trailer thing, and then the thing that I know was one of your biggest pet peeves about the whole thing, speaking of distractions, which was the CGI inclusion of characters that we might not otherwise be able to have in the movie. I don't know about you. I know you said you really didn't like it for a number of reasons. I was just, I couldn't decide if I liked it or not. It was just so distracting. Like, after the first viewing, I couldn't tell you a single thing that happened in that scene because I was so busy going.
Yeah, I would agree. Every time he popped on the screen, I'm like, well, there's just something still. I mean, like, it's like his face doesn't have any weight, Yeah. I went back and watched a scene with from A New Hope with him in it, and he's looking around, his eyebrows go up, and he's paying attention to things, and those little subtle things were still missing, and it just the turning around and it's too uncanny.
Yeah,
almost there, but still weird. And they did a good job recasting, Mon Mothma with someone who looked similar enough, right, in episode 3, and brought her back for this. I don't know. It's hard to say if I would have been taken out by them recasting another actor to play the part more, or what we got, right?
Yeah, it's hard to make the Mon Mothma parallel because they did recast her as a younger Mon Mothma for the prequels, and so she was kind of already established, and it just by pure happenstance, we lucked out that she is now that much older.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the difference between the two movies, and so that same actress being Mon Mothma didn't really pull me out. I think the Tarkin thing is just part of it was the voice. I didn't feel like the voice actor. They cast the actor because he had the same height, the same build, the same frame, and the same kind of mannerisms as Peter Cushing, and they let him go ahead and be the voice. Which, considering they dubbed over Darth Maul, I'm like, you know, we don't necessarily have to let him be the
just had
voice.
someone do a really good Tarkin on Rebels, right?
Yeah, that's the guy. I was like, if they had gotten him, the guy who did Rebels and Clone Wars, and just voiced him over, I think that would have taken me out a lot less. He was so good, and that just added to the, man, I'm really not sold.
Yeah.
I tried on subsequent. Well, my second viewing, I just tried to find out what was actually going on in those scenes because I didn't follow it the first time. But I tried to watch the other, and then you know, by the third time, it's just like, it's pretty good, and I just like, I can't say for sure if it's the fact that we know it's not him, and so we're like, well, this is CGI. Let me see if I can figure out if there's anything wrong with it, or if it were just some random schmo that they happen to make a CGI character, would I have noticed if it wasn't somebody that was so prominent and so obviously, like, in our brains we know it can't possibly be him because he's dead.
I seem to remember him being in episode 3 as well for like a half second, where he just kind of nods and wanders off, and that was looking really terrible. So maybe they, maybe that was the the experiment. They tried it with another actor. Peter Cushing has a very distinctive face structure.
He does.
Right? You gotta have those high cheekbones and then really narrow everything else. Man, that would be tough to recast. So
yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because that actor who was on it for like 5 seconds was played a character much like Tarkin, who kind of looks like him. He was Scorpius on Farscape, who, if you've ever seen, he has like very sunken cheekbones and very kind of narrow hawkish features. But yeah, I agree. Even then, it just was like, oh, that's not Grand Moff Tarkin. That's not Peter Cushing.
Yeah, I'm wondering what they're going to do, for episode 9 now, right? Because what's going to happen?
Well, they very much said that that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was right away. There was speculation of that right away. I'm referring. I assume you're referring to them trying to do a digital Leia for episode 9. Speaking of which, I thought the Rogue One Leia was actually quite good. Possibly because she didn't have to do very much. She wasn't on screen very long. But she was much younger. Her face is much smoother, and so there was less to notice wrong, I guess. But that was like an immediate, 2 seconds after, or 2 days after we were mourning, everybody's like, "Oh my God, they're going to digitally put General Leia into episode 3 or episode 9," and Lucasfilm right away was like, "No."
Yeah. Well, okay.
When we all went, okay, good.
All right. Yeah. I think overall, I enjoyed watching the movie. Apparently not enough to make myself go back again, but I was really busy and traveling for work last week. I thought I'd be able to get away, and it was just never a time. So that didn't work out for me. But I was planning to go back, so that's got to be worth something. I don't think I would. It's tough because there were a lot of things I liked about it. There were a lot of things that were just, I don't know if they're things that normal people would notice, or things that people who expect more from, a Star Wars movie, which is probably not a reasonable thing to expect after everything else we've gotten so far.
I liked the story. I liked that they did that story. We talked a little bit about that. That's the go-to AU. Oh, well, let's find out what happened to the Death Star plans. It's funny because I liked a lot about it, but it's always you come back to the things that, oh, I just wish they had not done this, or I wish they had changed that. Um, but I loved all the characters. I wish we had gotten a little bit more development of the two Guardians.
Sure. Yeah.
They were really interesting, and there was a lot there that I feel like we didn't get. I mean, by the time they're leaving they're on the
Jeddah?
library planet, not Jeddah, the final planet, Scarif. And Baze says something to the effect of, like, "Good job, little sister," to Jin, and I'm like, "That's awesome! That's so much backstory, and they haven't remotely known each other long enough, or we haven't seen enough of them interacting to get that." And I would have liked to have gotten a little bit more of that somewhere in the movie that somewhere got lost. But I thought Jin was good. I would love to see a Cassian Andor movie now.
Or he just goes around shooting informants, and then
Man.
it was that whole scene just a Han shot first kind of rebuild.
I mean, I think it's like that. It's kind of that. I mean, the whole Han shot first scene was supposed to be,
Setting up
it was
a character, right?
Yeah, it was this. It's the same storytelling tool, I guess. Where, hey, look how ruthless this guy is. We're going to bring him back from that, and that was a quick way of doing it. But I thought that was even more ruthless than Han. Han's getting threatened, and he's like,
Yeah.
"All right, well, you're going to take me in. I'll kill you. I don't care." But he's like, "Protect the rebellion. This is it. We got a little, Black Ops sort of dark side of the rebellion. And not everything is all hunky dory in the alliance. Sunshine and rainbows."
Yeah. There were a lot of kind of story bits that they used that made the alliance just not heroic. I mean, they're going to assassinate the guy. He kills the informant. They're all just kind of around the table, in their big meeting, bickering and not actually doing anything. It was like this is not the heroes that we know from the movies. These guys are all just kind of bleh. It was not very inspiring, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a middle. You have to get there, though. You have to get there somehow, and you have to believably go from, unfortunately, what is established in episode 3 to having a common reason. Everybody doesn't. People don't like the Empire, but not everybody is as aware of how dangerous they're going to be, or they are, and they need convincing. There's unrest, and then there's rebellion. And it's clearly, at this point, the way they're talking about it, they have not yet quite decided that this is going to be, they are an open rebellion. They are an alliance that is resisting the Empire, but they keep talking about, well, which I thought was interesting, is this war? If we do this, this is war. This is an act of war. And they're all very, hesitant about it, which I thought was an interesting thing to see, like, as a state of, compared to, the Rebels, which is before this.
Yeah, where they're organized, everyone's on the same page. This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
It seemed like as much continuity as there was. I mean, I just sat down with the kids today and watched a random episode of Rebels, and it was where they went to Geonosis and found all the all the Geonosans were gone, wiped out completely, and yet they left these big shipbuilding rigs in orbit, right? Where they were building something that is gone now. So we're going to try to figure out what it is, and it's a trap. They get assaulted, and there's some character moments between Zeb and the Agent Callus, but the idea that this is one more setup for Rogue One. I mean, they even mentioned Saw, the guy.
Yeah.
Callus mentions that he had an encounter with him, and I was like, wow. I think I'd seen that episode before. I never made the connection between Geonosis, that's where they built the thing, and certainly
Right.
I never heard Saw before because I haven't been catching up, kept up with everything. But the continuity that they have, between Chopper and the Ghost showing up in the movie, but the leadership of the rebellion just seemed to kind of have taken a little bit of a turn there.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that because I just watched an episode from this season, which is called "The Return to Geonosis," and Saw is actually in it.
Okay.
And there is a lot of discussion about, whoa, holy crap, not everybody in the rebellion runs things the way we do. Which is almost exactly what you were just saying. It's like, oh, there are other cells and they do different things differently, and we may not always agree, but for the moment we're all on the same side. So it sounds like there is some build up to that, to sort of try to dovetail into Rogue One.
Wow, I just had a flash of a memory, and that was I want to say Dark Force Rising, when they go off in Mon Mothma, or maybe it was the Last Command. They're trying to get Bel Iblis back into the rebellion
Yeah.
because about this time, he went off and did his own rebel thing and
Yep.
split off. That's interesting. Wow, what a weird callback. Okay.
Yeah. And I love that. That was one of my favorite things about Rogue One, it being the really sort of pulling together the inclusive nature of it, because I mean, I know you watch Rebels. I don't know how much you caught, but like the Hammerhead corvettes that come in from that Leia brings in Rebels, and the Ghost, of course, was there, and there was another thing that was relevant, and I can't remember what it was, but the direct crossovers, I really like that. Like, this is all one universe, and we're making efforts to make sure that we're all aware of that. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, General, what's her name, called over the comm, and again, Chopper rolling around. That was fun to see. I think I had remember reading somewhere that the Ghost was in the final battle, but seeing it out of the corner of my eye, as I panned down on Yavin, I was like, oh, there it is, That was fun. That was a fun spot. Yeah, the whole toward the end, when all the rebels are trying to make it look like there are more of them than there are. That was very well done. I thought that was entertaining. And then there was the sending a signal so that they can send a signal. That was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Well, on the weird plot points that I don't know. You want to talk about those?
We can.
All right.
I mean, so, there were several.
They got to send a signal to the ship, so they open the door so that they can send a signal. Doesn't that sound kind of redundant?
Yes. However, you're talking about, okay, I'm at Comic-Con, and the cell towers are super jammed because everybody's on their phone, but I can squeak out a text message, but I'm not going to go downloading a movie. That's essentially what they say. It's like, okay, we need to get a cable so we can connect into their network to make a signal strong enough to pierce the shield. Just a text message. Hey, we can send you the movie, but we need you to bring down the shield. Concentrate on the shield. And then once there's a hole, then they can, the giant, mega disk file that is apparently on some kind of, IBM 1960s hard drive.
Data tapes.
The stolen data tapes.
All right.
But then they transmit into this disk like that big that Leia can carry around and stick in R2-D2.
Yeah.
It's because the Rebellion has superior compression technology.
Yeah. I had a couple of other problems, but there was actually a video just went up a couple of days ago with our friends Matt Martin and Pablo.
Yes.
Did you see that, where they were kind of explaining a little bit in the background? So
I watched about half of it. I haven't got the second half yet.
It was quite entertaining, and a couple of things were like, all right, clearly you thought of this, all right, I'll give you that. That's fine. But again, I I'm trying to think of more specifics of things that I liked and didn't like. Clearly, the head honcho, what's her name's father, they kept calling him a scientist. Clearly, he was an engineer, right? I mean, he was in charge of.
They do both.
Okay.
I noticed because you guys mentioned that before. I was paying attention on the third viewing, and repeatedly they call him an engineer and a scientist. They go back and forth. So apparently, he has two classifications.
Okay, two classifications. That's fine.
That's right.
Leadership, because he's leading all those other engineer guys.
That's right.
They got taken out.
I don't know, intelligence, because he was hiding for so long. He kind of has treachery. Is he? Oh, he could be one of those rare one-y honor and treachery personnel.
What, honor and, or do you just choose one? You know.
Oh, when he reports.
Yeah, was it Sloan that doesn't he honor or treachery? You know, just choose one, or maybe it's the admiral. All right.
Oh, Admiral Ross, yeah.
Yeah. So certainly best prequel, right?
Oh, certainly. Like I said, there were lots of this. The idea of making this makes me think a lot about Enterprise.
Yeah, where they're kind of
because there's so much
about what they want to do.
Exactly. There's so much you can do. There's so much you can dovetail with, but you have to be really careful. And I think they did it much more capably than Enterprise was handled. There were still, I mean, there were things that I was like, oh, I wish they'd done this like that or this like that. But, you know, there's not a fan out there that's going to not think that. So, I mean, on the whole, I was thoroughly entertained. I really enjoyed almost all of it. I would say even over the CGI stuff and some of the character development, the thing I really, really hated the most was the Tantive. I did not like that ship being there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't I would have been fine if it had been another ship and maybe they kind of get off to the edge of the system. They just need to escape long enough to complete their transmission. And then they get blown up and then they have to trace the chick, because all of the I hate when you have like a guideline set up for you like A New Hope that's like, here's the dialogue. Okay, we trace this rebel spies to her. She's my only link to finding their rebel base. You know, we intercepted transmissions to this ship by rebel spies. I want to know what happened to the plans they sent you. Not that they ran to a little door and handed you through the airlock before I killed them all. You know, and then you got away. Oh, no, we're fine. We're just on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan.
Yeah, it really...
This is a different ship. This is totally not the ship that you just saw blow, you know, away from the ship you were destroying and jumped to hyperspace, and then you followed us.
Yeah, it takes away any of the logic behind trying to hide behind, you know, consular status, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just silly. That's ridiculous. I mean, you might as well just follow. It doesn't follow at all.
Yeah, and it was completely unnecessary. Like, they could have just as well had it be transmitted. They could have cut to the Tantive in another system. We get it. They're somewhere else, or they're at Tatooine already, because, you know, we've had the scene where Bail says he's going to send Leia to go try to recruit Obi-Wan. That would have been just as easy, and you have that end scene there. What did they send us? Hope. Yay. But instead, you know, we have that.
Instead, we have the senator's ship in the middle of a battle for some reason.
Yeah.
Docked inside a bigger ship. Why would you have this asset, you know, at that battle? I don't understand.
Yeah.
That seems like something that you would keep far away from the first, you know, major battle against the Empire. You bring the rest of the fleet. You don't bring the government the government agent who's working for you. That just doesn't. I don't follow that. There was some talk about, she's a major player in the rebellion. We see her in Rebels. She was probably at Yavin 4 the whole time. She was just off camera. And the ship
Yeah.
was on board that ship for repairs, I think is what they said, why it was docked. Um, yeah, I didn't get any of that. I much rather like your idea of, you know, having it just transmit one more time. We've already done it twice. One, two,
Yeah.
we might as well do it one more time. That way, Vader can get everybody on that ship. He could just follow with the Star Destroyer, take it out, but the message is off, and now he's got to go chase somebody instead of just okay.
Yeah. I mean, I like that it's pressing, like they're hound on top of them, right away, and maybe they jump, maybe they even have the Star Destroyer jump in on top of them as the end of the movie, and that would really like dovetail into A New Hope, to make it that urgent, because there is the thing that we didn't have in A New Hope with regard to something like this is now, as far as our modern day age, is that I was like, oh, there's this transmission. It's like, okay, give me, 10 seconds and I'm going to burn this onto 8 flash drives and I'm going to hand them to everybody and jump in escape pods. They made a significant production of moving it enough that it's like, okay, well, it's not everywhere, but you could have had them jump on and keep that sense of urgency. Anyway.
So moving forward, right? A lot of people complained that Episode 7 was a major retread of A New Hope. I maintain that for business reasons, that's exactly what they had to do, right?
Yeah.
They had to tell a compelling story that was similar enough to the old stuff to get everybody excited. Change some things here and there. But now that they've got everybody in, I was expecting everything from this point off to be really off the path. So I can commend them for doing something in both a Star Wars movie and a Disney movie that I've never expected. All the cast is dead, right?
Yeah. And they even say that in an interview, like one of the earlier cuts, because you see them running down the beach in the trailer off to escape, and the earliest cut, almost everybody escapes. And some of the higher ups were like, yeah, this is good, this is not bad, but kind of thought everybody was gonna die. and the director was like, well, yeah, but this is Disney, Lucas, we didn't think we could do that. And they're like, oh yeah, no, kill everybody. Do if you think it's appropriate, do it. This is we expected this to be a Dirty Dozen, be casualties type of war movie, and that's what they went back and were like,
So, but what I was expecting more was a true standalone. This was a Star Wars story that was going to be more standalone. But there's a lot you need to know going into this to be connected everything together. So between that kind of failure to be a standalone and Episode 7's failure to be different, when they're coming back with Episode 8 at the end of this year, boy, it needs to be brand new everything, don't you think?
Yeah. I don't know how much I agree with this not being too standalone-y. I mean, you have to know that there's a Death Star, and that's about it. I mean, there's a lot that's helps you appreciate more having known a lot of Star Wars, but I think it's all right on its own. That said, yeah, I agree that it sounds like the whole plan has been, let's establish Episode 7 as, all right, we're going to re-familiarize ourselves with classic Star Wars. This is what the OT feels like. This is no longer the prequel trilogy. We're kind of getting back into our roots. And I thought they did a great job with that. I mean, if you want to take a look at two movies that tried to do the same thing and did it, one did it well and did it poorly, go and watch Into Darkness again. And
yeah, no, thank you.
Which I still maintain is a fine movie, but they it's just fine. They did it. They executed it in a mediocre fashion where I think TFA is a very fine homage to a lot of stuff that happens, and it gives us a good grounding for moving forward in the Star Wars universe. Now, it's well established that the naming of the movies has not ever been Star Wars, the Star Wars saga's strong point.
What, Attack of the Clones is not something inspiring?
The Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
In fact, my favorite, The Empire Strikes Back. Okay, you know what? If that's the Solo title on a marquee, I'm not going to watch that movie. What the hell is that? That sounds like some cheesy episode of a serial, which, hey, guess what? That's exactly what it was meant to be. So I'm not going to put like millions of dollars worth of personal stock into this, but they announced the episode 8 title today, and I was uninspired.
The Last Jedi?
Yeah, it was just like, it sounded like one of the, young adult novellas. And it's, it's so, we already had a movie with Jedi in the title.
Well, I mean, look at this. You got episode 6 is Return of the Jedi. Episode 7 is The Force Awakens. And episode 8 is The Last Jedi. Force didn't like Jedi, I guess.
Yeah. It's like, back. The Jedi are back. The Force wakes up and smacks them back down.
Yeah. Well, see, let's see. One of the major players captured by a bad guy and end on a cliffhanger. How's that?
Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of speculation already. Jedi is plural of Jedi, so
fair enough.
Maybe it could mean more than one. These are the last of all the Jedi. There are multiples. It could be, Luke. It could be Rey. It could be somebody we haven't met yet. It could be Ben coming back.
Could be Finn
from his whining. Could be who?
Finn.
Finn? Oh yeah, it could be Finn.
He wielded a lightsaber better than Han did against the Tauntaun.
It could be Leia, although that seems less likely now.
Well, that would, yeah.
But there was always a.
Are you guys complaining about The Last Jedi?
Yes.
You discussed that Jedi is plural, right?
I just said that. You didn't hear me?
No, I'm reading Tumblr.
Yeah. Well,
They wanted to make sure we knew that Jedi is plural of Jedi, and so yes.
I always thought that was interesting. I think one of our friends pointed that out back when we were discussing Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi could mean Luke coming back to save people. It could be Anakin returning to the the light, or it could be the return of the Jedi plural. They're coming back again, and now we've got 2 for a brief moment, and then we're down to 1. But I like that.
See, I always thought it was excuse me, all of them.
Oh, okay.
It's so this could be the same thing.
Yes, it's all of them. Luke is the last because he's the last one trained by the old Jedi Order, so he's going to be the last one. Anything from here on out is going to be some other name. They're not from Jedi anymore.
Oh, whoa, ooh, way to tie it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, they're not Sith. The Knights of Ren. They started calling themselves other things, and we don't know that that Snoke is a Sith at all.
No, he was just.
So.
It was that guy that was telling Vader to put his clothes back on. Over there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, it could be, but who knows? Right?
Who knows?
I'm still expecting Snoke to be this tiny little thing, that projects himself to be super huge just to be menacing, but he's really just that tall. He's like a little alien in black,
that article in the West End Games source book where Boba Fett is a 4-inch alien inside of the helmet
armor via a complex system of pulleys and levers. That's right. Yes, please don't think our reporters anymore.
Yeah. We'll see. I like the idea that they evolve into something else, because Jedi is one of the interesting things I did find from the prequels is that Jedi is the Order kind of has decayed from the inside. So the fact that they're returning as themselves and not something new is maybe, concerning. So maybe Luke has spent all this time, fixing that or dwelling on it or trying to find a new way of doing things, because obviously trying to do it the old way didn't work again with Kylo Ren. So that's also an interesting idea. I like that.
All right. Well, we will consider this and check back again in 12 months, 11 months, and we'll find out, whether or not they're taking the path that we think is the right one, because clearly we're the intended audience.
Authority.
Yeah, right. All right. Again, we'll be off next week. And maybe I will declare we will return in 2 weeks with at least a spoiler.
Yeah. There is a local tournament, a 2E tournament, OTF, on Saturday. So if we can find somebody who attended that, or we can at least review the records and see how that went. And so as our local tournament scene gets back into swing.
Sounds good. I look forward to the results from that. And I will not be here. I will be in international waters.
Yeah. And I'm TBD.
Still number one?
All right. Still number one.
All right. Well. Okay.
All right.
Got 7 days.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, man.
In the meantime, I am Sir Rogue.
And I am Sir Dan.
And I will remind you all to expand your power in the Star Wars universe.
And I will activate a force to end. Or something.